Hello. Takakeisho takes a step back while four potential Ozeki step up. Sotra!
Roll the salt, get in the ring. Welcome to the Dohyo.
Hello and welcome back to the Dohyo here on MrJWags channel. And of course, we are talking about that amazing March Basho that just finished up. For those of you with keen eyes, you are probably realizing I am in yet again a different location. I am back in Ivins, Utah, performing the role of Willy Wonka in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, which will be opening here at the Tuacahn Auditorium in May. I will put a link down there if any of you are in the American Southwest and are interested. We're only 90 minutes away from Vegas. And before we jump into that March Basho, we gotta give one quick Sumo shout out. Now I know I've shouted them out before, but if any of you are looking for Sumo stats, please go to Sumo Reference. It is a stunning database with all of the Sumo stats that I believe are available. So if you are looking to get your Sumo stat on, check out Sumo Reference. Now, this tournament did not go as I had hoped or as I predicted. I had hoped that Takakeisho was going to get that strong Yusho and get the Yokozuna rope. I didn't predict that because I didn't think it was going to happen. I expected him to have another strong tournament, but he was going to fall short again. He ended up going Kyujo, sadly, and he is now Kataban. So, we have to hope he gets 8 wins in the next tournament. Otherwise, we are going to be an Ozeki short. As of course, we need at least 2 Ozeki plus Yokozuna to balance the banzuke, and if Terunofuji retires or Takakeisho loses his Ozeki rank, we will need some more. But we will be talking about that in a little bit. So, although I got both of my Yusho picks wrong for Makauchi and Juryo, although Takayasu and Asanoyama did both have very good tournaments with 10 plus wins each, this tournament did go sort of as predicted, despite the wrong Yusho picks. I was expecting that most of the cream has risen to the top of the Makauchi Banzuke, and that the lower Sanyaku was going to have a great tournament, and in fact, they did. I predicted we were only going to have one Makekoshi in the lower Sanyaku, Tobazaru, and that happened. And I said that everyone else who made it all the way through would get Kachikoshi, and they did. Of course, we had 2 Kyujo and Takakeisho and Sekiwake Wakatakakage. I'm going to say that as much as I can in this episode because he's not going to be a Sekiwake next time. So, of course, we have to give a huge shout-out to Kiribayama for winning his very first Yusho. Now I know I said in the prediction episode I had 3 people in my mind who could win this Yusho. Takayasu, Takakeisho, and Kiribayama. He did better than I expected, and I expected a lot. I expected double digits and a possible June Yusho again. He got up to 12-3 and ended up winning the championship in a playoff. Got his 2nd consecutive Gino Show Technique Prize. Very impressive. And it now seems to be on the precipice of an Ozeki promotion. So some on the internet, myself included, thought that Kiribayama might be able to get an Ozeki promotion with his recent success. He's had 31 wins over the past 3 tournaments, slightly under what is considered the Ozeki standard. And as we've mentioned before, 31s is by no means the weakest Ozeki run in sumo history. He also has a June Yusho in the last tournament, a Yusho this time, so things seem to be trending upward for him. That seems to be good. He's hitting his peak. We may be running out of Ozeki soon, so I thought this might be a good time to pop one up there, but alas, it did not happen. But Kiribayama is incredibly well set up for the next tournament. All he needs to get to 33 wins is get double-digit wins again. I think he'll be able to do it, even though I expect the Banzuke to be much tougher in May. Now, I absolutely understand the argument to not promote Kiribayama. Even though he made it up to 31 wins, 2 of those wins were Fusen wins, and I understand that you want these guys to really, really clear that bar to make sure you don't promote someone up to Ozeki and have them immediately crap out afterwards. Mitake Yumi! Now, there seems to be a lot of miscommunications and misinformation sort of flying around the sumo internet about what exactly is a deserving Ozeki run. So I'm going to be doing an episode later, sort of just breaking down Ozeki runs in the modern era since 1958. Expect that episode. It's going to be a lot of fun, where I'm going to break down a few of the myths about Ozeki promotion. I think in the next tournament, these 3 Rikishi have a shot. Now, all these guys had great tournaments. I'm going to get them all pre-Attaboys before we get to the Attaboy section, because they all had great tournaments. Of course, June Yusho winner Komusubi Daieisho was doing so well up until that last day. Came into the last day needing only 1 more win to defeat Kiribayama. He, of course, attacked Kiribayama the exact same way twice in a row and lost both matches. So good on Kiribayama for being prepared, and Daieisho, maybe mix it up next time. Daisho currently has 22 wins over his last 2 Basho. He, of course, has the Jun Yusho and a Gino Sho in this tournament. So, what is he going to need to make Ozeki next tournament? Well, 22 plus 11 makes 33. So, I'd think double-digit wins up in the Sanyaku would definitely give him a good long look for Ozeki. Next down would be Hoshoryu. I expected him to get Kachikoshi, but I didn't expect him to get all the way up into double digits. I think he's doing very, very well, but he's still a little bit inconsistent. Of course, 2 tournaments ago, he ended up going Kyujo in the middle of the tournament, came back, ended up fighting his way to his Kachikoshi, but that 8 and 7 has sort of killed the momentum for the Ozeki run going into this tournament. If he had just gotten a couple more wins in that tournament, or hadn't gotten Kyujo in January, we'd have a much different tale for Hoshoryu. But you get the wins you get, and we're at where we are at. So currently, Hoshoryu has 18 wins over the last 2 tournaments. Now, that's not to say Hoshoryu hasn't had a great career up to this point, and that he hasn't had 7 consecutive Kachikoshi in the Sanyaku, which he has. So that, to me, proves he is capable of excelling at this level. But he just hasn't gotten up to that point where he's gotten the 33 wins we've expected. So 2 tournaments ago, he got an 8. This time, he got a 10 and 5. And now that leaves us with 18. So to get to 33, he'd need a Zensho Yusho perfect 15 and 0. I don't think that's going to happen. But I think if he gets the next Yusho with a very, very dominant performance, like 13 and 2 or above, even though that only gets him to 31. So yes, on this list, Hoshoryu is the lowest in terms of win total going into the next tournament. But I think his youth and his consistency in the lower Sanyaku will be big pluses for him with the Sumo Council if they're looking for some emergency Ozeki in the near future. And the dark horse Ozeki pick, Komasubi Wakamoto Hadu. Alright, now, he sort of snuck his way up into the Sanyaku with some 9s and 6s and just working his way up slowly. It's very, very fundamentally sound Rikishi, not flashy at all, not drawing a whole heck of a lot of attention. Well, it's time to start paying attention to Wakamoto Hadu. Now, in my opinion, of the 4 we have mentioned today, he has the farthest to go. He has 20 wins, and that includes 1 Fusen in the last 2 tournaments. No special prizes, no Yusho, no Jun Yusho. So it looks like a 13 and 2 would get him up to 33 wins. A 13 and 2 would probably get him the Yusho based on recent history. So Wakamoto Hadu Yusho will probably get him there. Anything less? Probably not. But again, we may be in an emergency very soon. Now, as I mentioned in the last the March prediction episode, I think this banzuke is very, very balanced. And what I mean by that is people are in the places they deserve to be. That's why the Sanyaku did so well. All of our best wrestlers seem to have finally worked their way up into the Sanyaku. With, of course, the exception of some of the young hotness working its way up from Judo, but they're going to get there pretty soon. The downside, of course, is that in sumo, every promotion comes with a demotion, and some old favorites are sort of falling their way through judo, and I do not expect to see them for very much longer on the ring. So we have an Intai watch out for Tokushoryu. Tokushoryu, of course, came out of nowhere in 2020 and ended up winning a tournament from the very lowest position on the banzuke. It was such a lovely sumo story. Of course, he has not done very well since then. Ended up dropping down into Makushita recently, popped back up into Judo. We were all hopeful, and he's going back down to Makushita. So I do not expect him to really have another level back in his sumo, so he might get back up to Judo, but I don't really expect him to have much more excellence left in his sumo. So if this is the last we see of Tokushoryu in the paid ranks, thanks, man. It's been a great run. 3 other former Makauchi favorites in judo who had very bad tournaments: Chiyomaru, Chiyo no Kuni, and former champion Tochi Noshin. Tochi. Now, I don't expect any of these guys to go Intai immediately, especially Tochi Noshin. I expect him to be in the ring as long as he is drawing a salary. But I would expect that this next tournament may be the last time we see all 3 of these gentlemen in judo. So keep an eye out and give them a watch, and we'll remember the good times. And now it's time for a brand new segment called Worried?, where we discuss certain wrestlers and see if we are worried about their future in sumo or not. And we're going to start off with the ones I'm not worried about. I'm not that worried about Maegashira 1 Tamawashi. He only got 3 wins. He's the oldest guy on the banzuke, but I don't think we are at the point where he has hit the wall yet. This feels like it's just a bad tournament. If we have another couple ones in a row, then we can definitely start talking about a decline, but Tamawashi is very fundamentally sound and, of course, is an absolute gym freak and has kept himself in absolutely amazing shape. As Rocky Balboa said, time is undefeated, but I think we still have a few more good basho out of Tamawashi. Now going from old to young, Maegashira 5, Kota Shoho, had the June Yusho last tournament, this tournament, 6 and 9. He wasn't even up in the Joy, Maegashira 5, so what's going on, Kota Shoho? Now, Kota Shoho has just been very, very inconsistent, and it's very, very maddening, but I still think there is a lot of time. He's very young. There's a lot of time for him to really focus on his technique, calm down, and start dominating on the Dohyo. I am very worried about former Ozeki Takeyumi. He just hasn't looked at all good since he made Ozeki. Like, he made Ozeki, got 11 wins, and then has fallen off the sumo cliff. So I don't know how long he's going to be in Makuuchi, and since we seem to be past the idea that former Ozeki should retire, he might work his way down the banzuke, hopefully get a little healthier, but right now, I am not seeing much hope on the horizon for Takeyumi. I'm also very worried about Maegashira 3 Onosho and Sekiwake Wakataka Kage. They both, of course, suffered knee injuries in this tournament, and those are never good for anyone, but especially sumo wrestlers who have to put a great deal of stress on their knees. This is Onosho's second knee injury, and hopefully it's not nearly as bad as the last one that, of course, knocked him out of the Sanyaku and weighed on the banzuke into Judyo. He has managed to come back and be sort of a fixture in the mid to high Maegashira, but it just seems to be a little late for him at this point. And if this knee injury ends up being anything like the last one, he's not going to be as good when he comes back. So I'm hoping that this is a small injury, that he'll be able to come back reasonably at full strength and continue his career. Wakataka Kage, of course, had his traditional slow start, started ramping his way up into the second week, and then got hurt. So he's no longer going to be Sekiwake. He's going to drop down to Komusubi, most likely. And then, if he's not back by the next tournament, he's going to take a deep tumble into the Maegashira ranks. Early word on Wakataka Kage is not good. It does not look like he's going to be around for the next tournament. I hope I'm wrong about that, but early reports are that he is probably going to be out for 3 months. So I hope 3 months from now, Wakataka Kage is back, training, and he is ready to work his way back up into the Sanyaku. Well, if it's a recap episode, it must be time for Uncle Sumo's Attaboys. Yes, this is Uncle Sumo's Attaboys, a recurring segment where we look through the banzuke to give extra praise to wrestlers who had an excellent tournament. Now, of course, we've talked about the possible Ozeki coming in. They all had great tournaments, so we've pre-Attaboyed them. But talking about the rank and filers, let's talk about Midori Fuji. Now, you know I love a pixie. He's a smaller dude. He's got great technique. He won his first 10. That's an amazing thing. But as of course we all sort of knew, when he got promoted up to the top ranks to face those guys, he did not do as well. But we still have to give him all the credit in the world. His body is not going to allow him to be an Ozeki. I don't think that's a controversial statement to make. But he was in so many of those matches. He managed to beat a member of the Sanyaku in Tobizaru. I really, really hope he does well from here on out, even though I do believe his ultimate sumo ceiling is limited. But a great tournament. Attaboy Midori Fuji. Maegashira 1 Shodai. Okay, so Shodai ends up just going Kataban, coming back, going Kataban, coming back, and then does that for like a year at Ozeki. And the second he loses his Ozeki rank, then goes Ozeki Wake and drops completely out of it, 10 wins. So it appears as though Chaos Shodai is back, in effect just ready to mess with Sumo. It is great to see Shodai fighting again at something close to what looks like full strength. As we all know, he ended up having COVID, so maybe this was just a slow recovery from COVID, and now he's working his way back into his sumo body. I wouldn't say another Ozeki run is in his future, because that was sort of above what I think his normal sumo is, but I would not be surprised if we see Shodai just hang out in the Joy and the lower Sanyaku for another year or two. Maegashira 14 Kinbozan in his Makuuchi debut goes 11-4 with a Kanto Show Fighting Spirit prize. It's real hard to do better than that in your debut tournament. So he's 25, he's not like a young spring chicken, but he appears to still be growing a little bit into his sumo body, and I think there is definitely a chance for a leap there. I expect him to make Sanyaku by the end of the year. Maegashira 7, and my Yusho pick, Takayasu. Started 6-0, was doing so well. We're like, this could be the one. And then, of course, he had his second half fade, as is usual. But still, 10-5 is nothing to sneeze at. He was coming back from injury. Let's hope Takayasu can keep this all together and just keep fighting and maybe get that Yusho. Probably not, but maybe. Now heading down to Judio, I have an attaboy for our Judio Yusho winner, Ichinojo. Now, we'd expect a guy who recently won a championship in the top division to, of course, destroy people down at Judio, but he had not been doing very well. He had a lot of stuff going on mentally. He ended up getting suspended for behavioral purposes. And, as we now know, Ichinojo just had surgery before the tournament. Well, whatever the surgery was, it worked. He came back looking better than I've seen him in a while. 14-1, Judio Yusho. He's going to be well up into the Magashira ranks next tournament. So, hopefully this is a turned corner for Ichinojo, and only good things are going to be happening going forward for the Mongolian mountain. Attaboy. Asanoyama got the Juryo Jun Yusho, did better than I expected. I expected him to get 12 or fewer wins. He got 13-2, and that's really hard to do at any level of sumo. So, attaboy. We're going to talk about Judio promotions, demotions in just a sec. And our final attaboy goes to Judio 14, Ochiai, making his paid sumo debut after just one tournament at Makushita, which of course is a record. He came up, showed no butterflies, ended up going 10-5, and that includes an injury he suffered mid-tournament, recovered from it, came back to finish strong. I am absolutely fascinated to see what this young man is going to do. Watch out for Ochiai. Attaboy. Now it's time to see who's taken that midnight train to Judio. Now our first two promotions out of Judio are going to be the ones I just talked about. Asanoyama, 13 wins at Judio 1, and Judio 3, Ichinojo with 14 wins. They are going to be very, very up on the Makuuchi Banzuke, possibly in the single digits. There is no future Banzuke where I see them not making it out of Judio. There are two other wrestlers who might be promotable. Shonan no Umi at Judio 3 on the other side from Ichinojo, and Gonoyama at Judio 6. Now Gonoyama had 11 wins, and Shonan no Umi only had 9, so I think Gonoyama's 2 extra wins will put him just ahead in the promotion queue, but the question is, how many demotables do we have? As I mentioned in the last quick strike, the bottom part of the Banzuke largely held together very strong. We only had 2 losing records in the entire bottom 10 ranks of the Makuuchi Banzuke, and one of them was a 7-8. The only definite demotion I see is Magashira 14 Bushozan. He got a 5-10. By my math, he's taken the midnight train. But the question is, who else are we going to demote? So, since we absolutely need another demotion, I think it's going to come from either Magashira 11 Azamadyu or Magashira 12 Kageyaki. Now, Azamadyu, of course, is 1 rank ahead of Kageyaki there, but he also had 1 fewer win at 4-11. So, I'm expecting Azamadyu to be ahead of a 5-10 Kageyaki in the demotion line. But if they're very, very excited about promoting Gonoyama or Shonan no Umi, I could also see a slight over-demotion for Kageyaki. But Kageyaki's history has been one of under-demotion from this point out, so I would expect it's going to be a 2-up and 2 down, and we are going to be saying goodbye to Bushozan and Azamadyu. Now, before we get into the home stretch of the episode, I have a brief apology. Now, in the quick strikes, I was a little bit salty about the fact that Asanoyama didn't make it all the way back up to Makuuchi. After an amazing tournament, he had a 14-1 and ended up stalling out of Judio 1. And I was like, what's the freaking point? We know he's better than Judio. Let's start moving sumo forward. We need some Ozeki. What's the point of keeping a guy like Asanoyama in Judio so a guy like Mitoryu can hang out and get 8 or 7 wins right at the Judio Makuuchi line? Well, I think I was wrong about that. I don't think I was wrong about the fact that Asanoyama is a fundamentally better wrestler than Mitoryu, but I am sorry for Mitoryu in that he deserved that spot. Mitoryu has been following the rules. Mitoryu did not get suspended. Mitoryu has done his absolute best, and he ended up getting a Kachikoshi in this tournament. So, while I think a lot of us in sumo would have been very, very excited to see former Ozeki Asanoyama come up to Makuuchi and start making some rain, it wouldn't be fair to Mitoryu. He deserved that chance, because we've seen before. We've seen 2 Makuuchi titles won by Magashira's 17. So who are we to say that he's not going to be able to do it, that we can dismiss a wrestler like that? Not me. So, Mitoryu, I am sorry I take this one on myself. We're going to trust the rankings from here on out. I know everyone's doing their best. We don't get to bend the ranking rules just because we like a wrestler. Sorry. I mentioned in the predictions episode that this might be sort of the last tournament before the Banzuke starts getting very difficult, before like Big Daddy Terunofuji comes home and starts making some mess. But it's not just the Yokozuna. We are going to have 12 Makauchi Yusho returning to the top division next tournament, I think. Teruno Fuji, hopefully Takakeisho is going to be there and healthy. Ichi Nojo and Asanoyama, all former champions. That tells me it's going to be a lot harder to get the Yusho next tournament than it was this time. So where are we in the story of Sumo? Well, it's a story of generational conflict. I feel like we are finally at the point where we can say the last group of over 30 veterans is officially over the hill. I do not see Teruno Fuji returning at complete full strength. I don't expect him to win more than one Yusho for the rest of the year. We have a lot of young hotness, under 25, working their way up. Hoshoryu, Kimbozan, Ochai. Well, Kimbozan is 25, but he's still a young hotness in that he's relatively new. The question is, are the people who are right now currently in their peak? Wakataka Kage, can he return? Kiribayama, can he keep this up when the banzuke gets tougher? That's going to be the real question. Can the peak hold on and make their stamp on sumo before the young hotness, the tide of the young hotness, washes this current crop of peak wrestling away? I think we're going to know a lot more after the May Basho. Thank you so much for joining us here on the Dohyo. Of course, if you liked, please like, and if you want to see more, please subscribe. This just gets into the YouTube algorithm and tells them people love the Dohyo, and it helps spread all the Dohyo love across the interwebs. And if you didn't like it, and of course, everyone stay tuned. We got that Ozeki episode coming up. We have the predictions episode for May. You're not going to want to miss that. So everyone stay safe, stay strong, stay healthy, and I will see you next time on the Dohyo.